everybody? Happy Monday nights. I'm Sirken, and this is my stream. I'm very glad you guys could join us this evening. I'm joined by people that are making lots of noise. Uberbandit, you sound like you're on the expressway. Now you don't. Now I don't. Now it just sounds like you're gone. Doesn't matter. I'm joined by other people as well. I'm joined by two very wonderful people from the guild Taken. And so, Eratani, you can go first. Say hi. Tell these people who you are in case they have no idea what an Eratani is.
Hey, I'm an Eratani. I'm a druid.
Tell me things. What guild are you in? What class do you play? What do you do on this server?
Still talking to me?
Yeah, I'm still talking to you, buddy.
Well, since I just announced I was a druid, I am a druid officer in Taken, which has surprisingly been the only guild I've ever been in. That's pretty incredible. And been on the server since 2010, on and off. So I'm kind of an old fart here.
I like that. Sorry, I burped. I didn't mute my mic in time. Fearstalker.
Yes.
I have Fearstalker here, guys.
That's right. The rare sighting.
That is probably the rarest spawn. I wouldn't have believed you were real if I wasn't talking to you myself.
Got some rusty daggers in my loot table.
Got some dusty daggers is what you got.
That's right.
So, for people who don't know who you are because of your elusiveness, tell them.
All right. Well, I'm Fearstalker. I'm the guild leader of Taken. I've I play an enchanter, and yeah, I just been in the guild for quite a while. Actually, I joined Taken. I think when Eratani was on a bit of a sabbatical break for a while, and yeah, that's it.
Have you? I'm sorry if you just said this, but did you start Taken, or was someone else running it when you joined? What's the origin story there?
Okay, yeah, I was actually originally in Mercs of Norath, and they merged into Taken, which was previously Transcendence, and there's a whole backstory behind that I'm only really partially know why they changed their name. When I joined, Shire was guild leader, and then he stuck around for quite a while, and then he had to take off, and next up was Glitterati. She ran the guild for a little bit, and I think she headed off to one of the other EQ emulators, and it got handed to me because I spoke up and said, "Hey, let's get this thing rolling."
All right. Well, if that person went to one of the other emulators, they're doing it wrong. Because let me tell you something. I've played on just about every emulated server worth playing on. Except for Shards of Delia, which I've heard really good things about, but never got a chance. And none of them are better than P99. So that person's doing it wrong.
Have to agree.
How is the state of Taken?
Well, I think we're.
Oh wait, time out before we even get into the state of Taken. For people that wanna, do you guys have a guild site or a place people can go? To fill out an app or get more information or something of that nature?
Absolutely. We have www.takenguild.com. It gives information on the guild, shows some of our, we have a little front page, shows some of our recent kills and stuff. Gets updated when we remember to take pictures and all the action. And you can go through and have access to the application and read our charters, all that kind of stuff. So it's all there.
Some of those action shots are high quality. During that sabbatical, if you were mentioned, I was actually getting a film degree. So some of those angles are influenced by years of education.
Yeah, in fact, he's such a perfectionist. We had to get the GMs to respawn some of the targets so that we could kill it again. Get those proper angles.
Good. Sounds like you guys are getting the proper amount of favoritism.
That's right.
If that's the case. Oh man. So you mentioned Transcendence. Yes. And I didn't even know that was a thing until once upon a time I was doing some shit on the Red server was invited to Nihilum's TeamSpeak, and lo and behold, found a giant channel for Taken.
Yeah, that's where we are.
That blew my mind a little bit. And so I was curious, are you guys same group of people, different groups with under like a gaming flag of some sort? What's the connection there, if any?
Yeah, so Transcendence, as it stands right now, is a gaming community, I guess, right?
Right.
So they like to host various guilds and other games, actually, not just EverQuest, off their website, and also allow them to make use of their TeamSpeak server, which we do. So at present, what we use Transcendence for, or the Transcendence gaming community site, is really for our forums. We never actually moved off of their system. We did move the website, kind of like the the marketing promotional website that I pointed you to.
Mm-hmm.
Move that off of their stuff, but we still use their forums, and we still use their TeamSpeak. So we're separate from any other guilds or any other games or whatever that you saw hosted there. So when you went there from Nihilum, we were not. We don't talk to them. They don't talk to us. We can't see what they're doing, vice versa.
I see. All right. So I guess we're past introductions. I threw your guys' guild link in. I thought I threw it in there.
Sir.
Whatever. Why can't I find it? Is the big... Wow, you guys are talking way too much. That's what happened here. I'm just going to throw it one more time so I can see it and it won't mess with my OCD. If anyone's interested in joining Taken, you should click that link. True story. Once upon a time, a couple years ago, before we had a class system, me and... It was either Epfi or Darabale when he was very new, but I think it was Epfi. Me and him used to watch all the different guilds, and I remember when Taken first started like successfully getting mobs. I think it started with some faded R's, and then it just started to web out from there. And I remember telling myself that if I was to quit staff and go back to playing, I would have Taken, because that's the kind of guild I always liked. I don't like joining the top #1 guild because I don't feel like I'm working for anything. But I truly, truly felt like Taken was the next big guild. Like, I thought if there was never a class system, I thought you guys were well on your way to downing the Trakanons and VSs that the other top guilds were competing for. I thought you guys were well on your way to being in VP and making noise in VP. And then none of that happened. And so, I'm curious, I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say because I've talked to people in your guild. But for people who might not know and might be genuinely curious, why the decision to stay in Class R, and why does that... I guess explain yourself, sir. Explain it. I want to know why Taken's in Class R. I'm slamming my fists on the desk.
Yeah, we do see that a lot. As you may know, or others here know, we do like to compete in the free-for-alls. We really, looked at doing that to kind of keep our edge and sharpen it when we were doing the player-created rotations. We'd be rotated off mobs for a good month or a couple of months. And it really, it's really paid off for us because, we were really able to figure out what we needed to do to compete. Mm-hmm. Now, having said that, though, Class R versus Class C, it's two very different mindsets for the guilds that play. And so Taken, at its core, is a very casual guild. It's in our kind of our motto. We semi-casual raiding guild, and that's always been our focus. We don't place a lot of expectations or impose a lot of requirements on our players. Now, So there's just a different mindset between the people who really like to compete all the time and just are constantly in that zone, and they attract a lot of people into their guilds that have that the same mentality and the same amount of time and play time. Taken really doesn't have a huge number of people who can devote a lot of time to tracking and a lot of time to a lot of the other stuff that goes on. We've been very fortunate that we've had a good core of people, and it constantly keeps growing over the years that can do some of that harder core stuff while the guild can remain more of a casual footing. And that's I think one of the big strengths is that we give that option to the members. If you want to be really hardcore, you can go as hard as you want and really benefit from it within the guild. Whereas if you want to play more on a casual thing and get in, hop on for some of the kills and hang out with groups and have a lot of fun, then that's also the option. So it's really just the R class system really works for us, and in that it blocks off a couple of guilds per target, and gives others the chance to have their shot at it. Presently competing with one another, but in the past, obviously, we had our rotation that kind of gave everyone a chance to learn some of these encounters. So we really we really enjoy that or continuing that kind of relationship with the server. We have our shot, then we take our time off once we're locked out of a target for the next 2 pops, and in the time in between, we'll take some shots at some of the free-for-all stuff. Moving into Class C, really, I'm not sure how it would really benefit us other than giving us the opportunity to pop into VP, and that I think that would be fun, and I know a lot of our members would love to do that. We're just really not at that point yet. We're short on keys and
I'll
necessary
tell you right
classes.
Now,
yep.
After the bullshit that I had to deal with last night, I don't blame you for not wanting to be in VP.
Oh, we'd love to. We'd love to be there, but you think about it. I mean, we're a guild that has really no real experience in there. We have no experience on this server, the way the guilds play in there, or don't play, and so we would be at a severe disadvantage trying to get in there and sort things out.
Now you're saying your guild is not good enough at Petition Quest, because that's what it sounds like to me.
We try to avoid that. We do try to take it to heart, your request to work things out amongst each other, but yeah, that's the thing, right? So that's kind of, let's think back to how the server was before we put the class system in place. It was good luck trying to get something. It was a constant, struggle.
Yeah, unless you were TMO, FE, or IB, you might as well not show up.
Right, and and even when we had our shot, it was you're on the clock and you just no time for mistakes, no time for trying to figure out how do we do this encounter, and so that's been the thing is we look at being in R as an opportunity to enjoy the encounter more than some people put a lot of value on competition. They love wagging their dicks in people's face and say, look, we did this, and back and forth and free on the RNF and in the game and all that stuff. For us, we really enjoy figuring out the encounter and then doing it. And what we take from that learning, we can kind of dip our toe into the competitive side with free for all. And that's kind of that's one thing I really appreciate about the system we put in place. At first, I was kind of about the free-for-all, but over time, I see it as a real benefit because you can kind of, it gives you more chances to go in and compete for stuff just to kind of see what that's like. But
you can see how you kind of stack up against the other guilds without making the leap to Class C, I guess.
Yeah, without having to do that all the time for every little scrap that you want. Like it's nice to be able to know that, hey, we have a shot at getting CT when it comes up on R, because we have yet to actually get a Necro Epic for our guild. And whereas if we were in C, it would it would be a challenge. I mean, we've tried doing the free for all stuff, and it's a challenge for us.
I mean, I could argue that C is a challenge for any guild that tries to kill a C mob. Yeah. I know TMO doesn't feel Rampage gives them stuff. I know Rampage doesn't feel TMO gives them stuff, and Lord, everybody knows Asgard does not feel like they're getting things. But what would you say to people who they see not just your guild, but they see a couple different Class R guilds for certain raid mobs poop socking the absolute shit out of it with numbers that would mirror the total online population of Red server, and they see those things and say, how is this guild on the same level as a guild like we'll say Indignation or Europa or Omni or Moonlight Crusaders before they folded in, or any of the R guilds besides, say, Taken and BDA and Divinity. And I'm only using you guys because you're the three biggest, most efficient mobilizing type guilds.
Right. Well, I really, we don't necessarily have to be, the same level. We're in R, and I would say, argue that, Taken's one of the most successful R guilds. Mm-hmm. And that, when we do these poop socks and stuff like that, it's really just, we've developed a system where we get very focused. We know what we want. We plan this stuff out way in advance. I mean, once we've killed targets, we know exactly what's coming up next. We know what we're going to be doing. We plan for it. We organize, and that's really our strength. Mm-hmm. And so we know what we're going to be doing. And once the number starts ticking down, getting close to the end of the window, then we'll hop on. Or if we see that there's other guilds wanting to step up and are starting to stock as well, so then we'll hop on. And I don't see that that's a bad thing, because if we get the kill, which typically we do, then we're locked out for 2, and they can be trying to go up against the others. Now, BDA, yes, is another very capable guild, and typically when they're up, they manage to get their target as well. Divinity has, they have a different outlook on stuff. They'll be focused when it's within a good time for them, the window's working out for them. But I think I've seen a lot of guilds tend to hold off on competing until Divinity's up, just because they know the windows can kind of work to their advantage, and that Divinity's not pushing it as hard for stuff. And that's their decision. That's their choice, I think.
Right, for sure.
I know a real nice thing about R versus C, especially as an officer, is just the amount of targets available to your guild on any given week spawn. And, I kind of enjoy playing the game of EverQuest at times and not having to track or poop sock or camp out characters. And, as Fear mentioned earlier, a tracker core isn't as large as some of the other guilds. So when we go for a target, we are asking, 10, 12, 15 people to put in hours staring at their computer. We try not to do that, back to back to back to back. I think some of the VP windows with the free-for-all and C-mobs, windows will start on Friday and end on a Monday. And it just takes a lot of restraint to just constantly know, holy crap, 6 mobs are about to be in window, so much is going on, members want to do that, and it just could easily just burn out some of the people that kind of join the guild just for the, hanging out family aspects.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we're constantly trying, kind of struggling with figuring out, just how much we should be doing, kind of trying to find that balance between, satisfying the members who would like to do more, but without burning people out where we're moving from one target to the next and next. And we did that for a period of time where we were really gunning and constantly on the go. I think we got 5 targets one week with the free-for-alls and everything else, and it starts to take its toll. So then we make the decision to dial back and be a little bit more selective with some of the targets. I mean, really, and that really came about once the whole rotation aspect, the player-made rotation came to an end, because then everything in R is essentially a free-for-all within R, and so we just have to be more selective with it.
I like it. I know there's a lot of bullshit in C. Just the petty, like, not game content bullshit, like the training, the purposely fucking with each other without training, because there's many different ways to fuck with people. If it wasn't for the shenanigans, if it was just simply so not counting shenanigans, some of the biggest differences in my opinion between R and C, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but in my opinion some of those biggest differences are, and again, this is all of Class R, this isn't just your guild, but Class C obviously can mobilize members much faster than most Class R guilds. They kill things in a matter of minutes within pop, as opposed to, I know when you guys first tried to introduce a tier system with slightly different rules than had been in place previously, people kind of lost their mind at the idea of only having an hour to kill things, so that was an issue. There's you could argue there's a lot of poop socking and tracking and stuff, but I won't give you guys that argument because I've seen you in Karner's Castle for VS poop socking that like it's the end of the world. And
I blame our new plug DJ channel. We had 25 people in there finding YouTube videos, constantly stressing out over their next pick. It's intense.
That's awesome because it keeps people like you're actually doing something as a guild. You're building relation. You're not just sitting there staring at a wall. So I'm all in favor of that.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I think people lose sight of the fact that, and this I think happens in other guilds. It's not just you're sitting there and it's quiet, and it's just all game. It's a time for everybody to kind of hang out, have fun, chit chat. And that's one of the things that I've always seen on any time when we're really socking on something is we all just kind of have fun laughing about just the most stupid things in TeamSpeak, and like Eratani said, pulling up videos and trying to outdo each other. So it's a lot of fun.
We're an adult guild for sure.
There's a couple things in chat I want to hit real quick.
I have a list, buddy.
All right, I'm gonna run off some things because I was making a list too because I didn't know if you were or not. And just if I hit them, then kill it. But if I skip something, let me know because
I hold everything.
There's only a couple things that I saw when I glanced.
The quick fire round at the end of the stream, so I got it.
Gotcha. I just wanted to say, Z-Rip, you asked how often do I check petitions that other GMs have tagged specifically for me. I usually will check that once or twice a week. Sometimes, depending on what petition, like if I only have 20 minutes or 30 minutes, I'm going to knock out as many quick petitions as I can. I'm not going to sit down and do a petition that I know is going to take 20 or 30 minutes for me to get to the bottom of. So it varies sometimes based on my schedule, but I'd say at worst once a week, unless there's super secret things going on behind the curtains that I can't tell you guys about, in which case that will slow down how much time I have. I'm not saying that there's super secret curtainy things. I'm just saying that sometimes things happen. Cog asked about last night's bullshit, and I really don't want to get too much into that other than, holy shit, do nerds get crazy when pixels are at stake. And as far as chat channels, it's not classic. No, I was never a GM on live, but I was a GM on a different EQ emulated server. Did I see the battle in KC? No, but I heard about it from a lot of people. I was actually dealing with Petition Quest on Blue, and so I wasn't able to log into Red to see all that. And I would have liked to be there, because I'm willing to bet my computer can handle 200 people being in the zone. It would have been good science.
My mule was just killed by a griffin.
Shit's so classic. Zelina wants to know how we got the rare scene Fearstalker to join stream. And all I can tell you is essentially we had to kidnap a few of his guild members and threaten with fear of death. And because he's a good guild leader, he decided to come out on stream against his own will for the lives and safety of his guild members. So if any of you want a guild leader that will literally put his life on the line for your well-being, www.takenguild.com, go there and apply. Fearstalker will lay his life on the line for your safety.
Gee, I was just gonna say it was hookers and blow, but I like yours better.
Yeah, you know, or hookers and blow. whatever you want, really. Oh man. So one thing I was gonna ask you, and I guess this could either one of you or both of you, what are your like main time zones? Do you guys recruit Euros as well? Are you mostly American? Are you trying to recruit Euros? What's your core time zones? When you play? When do you do the shit the most? Are you round the clock able, or are you not round the clock able? Give me more details.
Well, we do recruit in all, we take in all time zones. We have some Australian players. We definitely have a bunch of European players with us. The core of the guild tends to be on the U.S. Eastern time zone. So our guilds, our raids, the scheduled raids that we do, typically will start at 6 p.m. Eastern throughout the week. Those are our scheduled ones. We do try to have, we'd have like one during the week or a couple early in the week for miscellaneous. We'll do a plane or whatever. Thursdays we do Sky in the morning and at night, and then sometimes on Fridays we used to do we had a tea time raid for our European folks. Start around 3 Eastern. And then we also will often have what we call drunken raids, where it's usually like a Friday night or Saturday night. We'll put some ad hoc raid together, and people are drunk and having fun and all that kind of stuff. So, but our focus, typically we're a little bit more U.S. Eastern centric. We're pushing for more presence with European players. We do have one officer who lives out there presently. We're looking to maybe add some more, and we're going to try and do some schedule some raids that are a little bit more palatable to people out in Europe.
All right, I have a question.
Yep.
Why, and maybe people have, but why has not anybody either tried to merge with Europa and or at least set up some kind of raiding alliance with Europa, so that you can help them during American times and they can then help you during European times and just cover more turf?
That's the CSG though. That's the Azergard Europa Omni. They took your idea.
What are they doing with it?
They were there at VS on Sunday competing with us.
Oh.
Yeah, in terms of merging, I mean, Europa's got a very different mindset from a lot of the guilds. I learned this, in talking with them when we were working on building up the rotation for the R class stuff. And they just merging with another guild, particularly one in the U.S. or U.S. based, I don't think would really float well with a lot of their members. It's just a different outlook on the game, a different attitude. They don't like this notions of poop socking or bat phoning. They don't bat phone for stuff. At least in the past they had. And I don't know if that's changed. And so that kind of shoots down the idea of a merger. And it's really, that goes with any guild. I mean,
most guilds aren't gonna be for a merger because they lose their identity, I guess, and I can respect that.
Yeah, it's not necessarily. It's not even about the officers in any guild don't want to lose that kind of whatever imagined prestige they have within their guild. It's really just it's like a community. Each guild is like a community, right? And there's just a different feel. It's like a family, and when you merge into another guild, you kind of lose some of that. It picks up when you join the guild, because we've had mergers into Taken.
Oh yeah, it takes time though.
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of the alliance, as Eratani said, that's they realize, the other guilds realize that there's challenges in competing with Taken and BDA and Divinity, and so that they're, it's kind of better off if they kind of group together or band together, which ironically is kind of the thing that we had really pushed for when we had the rotation going. It was one of the it started getting a little bit messy with the way the rotation was originally set up, and so one thing that we had pushed for and taken a year ago or so, over a year ago, was to basically push guilds to form an alliance, like a permanent alliance that they would use for the different targets. But
right.
They were against it, but now they kind of, I guess, see the value of that, and I think it works for them.
I mean, the reason, obviously, the reason they were against it is because they were trying to maximize the amount of raid kills, and through that, the amount of loots that both sides would get. And
absolutely.
While I think it's fine for guilds to work together, I do think if there's an actual system put in place by staff, it shouldn't be that willy. Like, if a class system is being forced on players, then there should be some rules or guidelines, and I thought it was more than fair to say ally for everything or ally for nothing.
Right. I mean, when we first put the rotation together, because the class system was what the staff put in place, and then we took it upon ourselves to implement a rotation system within Class R.
Right.
So the idea at the time, we were figuring out how things would work. One of the main things we said was, like, don't game the system.
Yeah.
Don't try, and it kind of devolved into that over time, as people said, well, no, they felt more entitled. Well, no, I'm entitled to this mob. We can't mobilize at a certain time, so we should get a pass on it and kind of stay at the #1 slot until it pops during our window, which would be fine. But we had some guilds where their window for it to pop was literally 4 hours.
Yeah.
So that it just clogged up the system, and then then we had people doing alliances and basically getting multiple shots at these boss targets ahead of others, which really was gaming the system. And it is exactly as you said. They didn't want to say, hey, we all had our time, having fun killing CT. We split the loot. Now we all move to the bottom of the rotation and do that what's fair. And that was the big point of contention for them, really.
I was hoping very much that 10 to 12 months of getting mobs through a rotation would have encouraged them enough to be like, well, shit, we don't want to completely lose what we have, even though it's not a lot, it's something, so let's try to strike a deal. And I was kind of sad to see how adamantly against the tier system they were after. Like, the first system, fine.
Yeah.
The original lockouts, I told everybody that I didn't think were acceptable. But once you guys made some changes to it, changed the barriers of entry, changed the... And this wasn't even a me thing, but you guys changed the time from 1 hour to 2 hours, I believe, anyway. And they still didn't seem to favor it very much. And that's sad, because not all guilds are created equally, and it's a shitty thing to say, but if you're capable of taking a bigger piece of the pie, then it's going to sound shitty. What I'm about to say. I'm just going to say it. You deserve whatever you're able to take. Yeah. And if you're Class C, then you deserve whatever you can take in Class C. If you're Class R, you deserve whatever you can take in Class R. And that's EverQuest. We don't have instance raids. We don't have instant zones. We don't have any of that. Different competing forces are going to be forced to occupy the same space at the same time, competing for the same mobs, and not everybody's going to get a trophy. That's how classic EverQuest is.
Yeah, I think a big issue with, or part of what caused the rotation to kind of fall in on itself, was, I think, the way the new system was put forth. I mean, about a year prior, like I said, Taken had come up with essentially the same proposal, and I had actually floated it amongst the other R guilds, and it was shot down. Obviously because they were going to have to give up, some of the stuff that they're really enjoying. Fast forward a year later or so, and then BDA took it and just said, "This is what we're doing," and take it or leave it, and it kind of, put them into a corner. A lot of the guilds, because they, it's like, well, do we just knuckle under and say, yes, whatever you say, or do we say, screw that, we're going to make, we'll try it on our own type of thing. I think had that proposal been put forth with BDA, Taken, and Divinity, because we were really the three main guilds who supported this approach, and even in the past, had we come forth and said, look, this is what we want to do, and kind of lay it out a little bit differently, I think the rotation would still be in place. And I really liked the rotation, even though it meant less mobs for Taken. I mean, we've been doing extremely well between the R-class targets and the free-for-all, but that's not what it's, that's really not the main thing that interests us. We like to see, work with other guilds and have everyone kind of have their shot. It's just, again, they really should have kind of said, okay, yeah, you know what, this is a fair system. Let's give it a try for a while at least. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish they would have seen, maybe not seen. I wish they would have thought more steps ahead than they had. I feel they were thinking such short term in what they were losing that they weren't thinking long term in terms of, well, if we have nothing, this is what will happen, and if we do this is, like, they were still comparing it to a rotation, and they didn't realize that idea was already dead. And so your choices were either a tier system or straight FFA within Class R. Right.
Yeah, and again, FFA was something that Taken spent all the time since almost the entire time that the class system's been in place. We've been working on honing our skill and figuring out how to compete. Mm-hmm. So we weren't. I mean, we were fine with our going to FFA from the perspective of, what are we going to get mobs? Are we going to be able to continue? Absolutely. We actually, like I said, we came out way in advance in terms of actual stuff we've been getting. But again, it's kind of unfortunately at the cost of a good agreement that worked, that we had amongst the other guilds. Oh, and man. It would have been nice if they would have. It would have been nice, like you said, had they been thinking a little bit more further ahead, and kind of swallowed some of the, put aside some of this hurt pride, I think that existed again with how it was presented, and said, okay, look, it's not ideal, but let's give this a shot. And I really had hoped that after a period of time of doing this FFA stuff, that maybe they would have said, okay, well, you know what, you guys were right. It's we're not really getting anything now, and something's better than nothing. So let's see what we can do. But it hasn't happened.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Well, and who's to say that all the guilds would even want to go back to rotation? I mean, and I did caution them this. Like, look, it's not just Taken, it's other guilds, and if they can manage to get some targets that they otherwise wouldn't be getting, it's basically all the guilds have to agree to this rotation, or it doesn't work. So
I'm making fun of you guys in chat room, just so you know, for full disclosure.
That's okay. Thick skins. So anyway, yeah, anyway, that's, I guess, enough of
that. So rotation. You mentioned it. It's on my list of things. It's dead. It's not coming back. I'll say straight up, most of you guys know that I'm against the rotation. Fearstalker, I believe you were part of the horrible fucking guild leader thing involving all the guild leaders and myself and Rogan and Nobog, and trying to hammer things out. And let me tell you, that might have been the most unenjoyable time I've ever spent on this server. I know. Oh man, I don't know what you guys all know about that, but I know there was lots of moments where the staff was like, "You guys sit tight, we'll be right back," and then we would go and do our thing and then come back. And one of those times, I got real upset, We're going into story time now. And me, Nilbog, Rogan, and Deribale were in a private thing, chit-chatting. Rogan had to go to bed because he had work in the morning, and we had been going back and forth with everybody for way too many hours. And so Rogan's like, this is important, this is important, this is important. Peace, I'm out. And so me, Nilbog, and Deribale were trying to deal with things without Rogan being there. And we, admittedly, me and Deribale were just frustrated as hell. And we went to Nilbog and we're like, what do you want? And I'm assuming he was frustrated as hell too. And he's like, he's like, how about this? And I was like, that is going to piss people off because they're only getting X amount of things. And he's like, quote, word for word quote, how much do they get now? And I was like, practically nothing. And he's like, okay. Meaning they get more, it's an improvement. Just go tell them that and we'll be done with it. And so I put on my official mouthpiece and I went and delivered the news. And holy shit, did every guild leader in that TeamSpeak just lose their absolute mind and start writing songs that I was the devil and that I was going rogue and that all of these things happened. And then me and Rogan got into a tiff because he was like, I want this, this, and this. And we pretty much... you've been in meetings. You know what it's like. If one officer's like, I want this, and then that officer leaves and the meeting continues and nobody shares that officer's opinion, it really doesn't matter what that person said because the people still there have their own opinions and that's what they're going to discuss. And so that's what the three of us did and that's what you guys got and you weren't thrilled. What we didn't know was that Rogan already wrote the code for basically everything that works on the raid.php page. That was already written, we didn't know. And so he wanted to use that because it was already created. So I went around, I was happy to unsuspend everybody and pop raid mobs. And then raid mobs went away. I think A-Team killed VS. And I think one other guild got something. And then all the raid mobs went away. And you know what? I'm going to give all you nerds a free lesson in public relations. Me and Rogan, we weren't pleased with each other right then in that moment. But we didn't go to RNF. We didn't go making threads about it. I didn't go on stream bitching and crying and complaining about it. We kept that shit in the locker room behind closed doors. You nerds, when you get mad at your guild, you need to stop going to the rants and flames. You need to either find a buddy in your guild that you can talk shit about the officers to, and they will keep it between the two of you. I know when I was a player, there was another Necro, and we were really good buddies, and every time the guild did something stupid, like gives a Necro item to either the guild bank or someone who didn't deserve it more than me, or him, we would bitch and complain about how stupid our officers and leaders were. And they never heard about it, because we never put it on the forums, and we never spoke out of school about it. When I hear officers talking shit about other officers in front of their members or doing dumb shit like that, it blows my mind. Because officers and leaders need to have a united front. I'm kind of just ranting now. I don't know exactly where I was planning on going with all those Class C discussions. But I feel like the point I was making is that not everybody always agrees on things, and sometimes you just gotta make do with the situation or the cards you're dealt and play that hand. The other guilds besides BDA and Taken really don't realize how lucky they were that a rotation existed in the first place. As a staff, we never, ever, ever said a rotation had to exist. We never forced a rotation. That was completely player-made, organized, and enforced. And I absolutely tip my hat to you guys for being able to get, I think it was 10 or 11 guilds at one point all working together and being able to resolve all your issues together without bringing them all to me right away. I thought that was very commendable and definitely worth mentioning.
Yeah, I thought it went. It actually went pretty good, and it lasted a considerable amount of time. And I think the guilds working together like that probably eased up the petition load, at least what you would have potentially had from all those guilds.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, actually, I was glad you mentioned what happened with the that spawning and despawning and everything. I remember when that all happened, and I was like, oh. So it was kind of interesting to get some of the background on that.
Yeah, no,
That was
I
a
know.
bad night.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't even know. You don't even know. Me and Rogan didn't even talk for like 2 weeks. I mean,
Weren't you streaming that night too? I think.
yeah.
Yeah, you were.
I was. And it's
I
like,
even unfriended him on Facebook. Oh my goodness.
I'm not even on Facebook, nerd. But no, if you find the stream, like, it's Uberbandit and like one or two other people like for 2 hours. Me and Darabale are there at the beginning, and then we get pulled into a call, and then we're gone for like an hour, and then one of us comes back all tired and worn out, and then
Yeah, I
the
think
other
it was
one
like
comes
me and
back.
Kuvani just freeballing it for 2
Yeah,
hours.
I think it
Oh,
was.
we were watching at the Fear Portal. I remember we were hoping we could just walk into that portal because that was a CT on rotation for that, shake of the class system thing. So we just kept walking into that Fear Portal and kept kicking us to the safe spot in the zone. We were just hoping maybe at this hour it just would work for like I don't know how long we sat there, like 3 hours.
It was shitty because everybody was like literally everybody was suspended from raiding.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that is because when Rogan suspended TMO, Forceful Entry and IB, I don't know about the Class R guilds, but Forceful Entry and IB were trying to use that suspension as leverage in negotiations. Like basically, if we don't get a deal we want, we're not going to agree to it because you're raid suspended until there's a deal and we're not.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that is not fair for negotiations. And so I was like, everybody's raid suspended. And let me tell you something. I don't power trip often, but on that day I did. And it felt real good. And now I know why other people do it.
So what you're talking about we're talking about class system, and I this is probably something that you're not going to be able to answer.
I'll try.
What's the feelings around Velius? So I guess there's really a couple of options. Either the class system just completely goes away, or it gets extended into Velius, or it just you kind of have half the world. It doesn't go into Velius, but it remains in the old world.
Right. There, to be completely honest, as a staff, we have not even talked about it. My personal opinion, and that's really all I can give, is my personal opinion. But my personal opinion on the matter is that Velius should be completely free for all. The class system should stay intact with the mobs that it currently applies to. And I'm on the fence about throwing VP into Class R. I've made arguments in my brain how it's good and bad for it to be a thing.
I mean, obviously, I stand. I'm biased, but I do think the premise of having VP Class C was that it was basically the end game zone for EverQuest in Kunark, and that with Velius that status kind of goes away.
Right.
And I think it would, I think it would be it would be a good move to move it into the rotation or into the class system to give guilds, basically the opportunity to start to figure out how to work the stuff in there because, and again, most of the our guilds don't have experience on it. Yeah.
Some of the VP loot, especially some Faradar loot, is still best in slot come Velius. And so, like, I see the argument that, like, this is Kunark and that's Velius. But if you're looking at slot value and gear value, it's not just, well, not as good as Velius. Some of it's better. And so that's one reason. Another reason is we want people... I'll tell you right now, if I can get TMO and Rampage to start playing nice together, I'm going to seriously talk to Rogan about forcing a couple guilds into Class C. The only reason I've not brought that up is because there's so much bullshit petition quest drama, petty garbage, that I don't think it's fair to force anyone to deal with those things. But if Class C was cleaner, and it was just a matter of simply racing for mobs and being forced to mobilize faster, then I would absolutely push for a couple guilds to get moved into C. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's ever going to be a realistic possibility because it is really hard. I thought last night was going to be the simplest mediation that I've ever had to do. I did not expect at any time that I was going to have to unzipper my pants and whip it out and slam it on the table. And I did, and it was over something so stupid. Like, I knew a solution instantly. And I was just giving them an opportunity to come to that, let them argue, and then they'll start talking, and then one side will make an offer, another side will make an offer. Hopefully they'll land on something close to what's in my brain, because I think it's fair. And they were just crazy. They were fucking absolutely fucking crazy. And so finally I was like, all right, all of you guys stop. This is what's going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. I think it's fair. Go to your guild. If they don't think it's fair, I will think of something probably more horrible. But I think it's legit. And I don't know if it's because sometimes people are just mad and they want to argue or what it is. But
yeah, but that's the kind of toxic environment that
even then, even when I was like, this is what you do. It's the same thing and you get to pick when you use it. I basically said, I will give you a card that lets you do what they just did to you. And it doesn't even have to be on the next mob. So for element of surprise purposes, you can pick the mob you use it on. And they still lost their minds in the moment.
Yeah.
And now today we've talked and they're like, you know what, I'm sorry. You were right. That actually is a fair thing. I was just, you get heated in the moment and whatever. And I get that. But, I mean, fuck, guys. In real life, countries that are at real war with each other, dropping bombs and killing people in real life, are able to have lines of communication, lines of diplomacy, lines of negotiation, all of these things. And you're telling me that pixelated characters on a 15-year-old emulated server killing dragons that we've all killed before, and we can't have at least a line of communication, like some kind of mutual respect for the enemy? Like, I mean, fuck. It's...
Quickest way to make them play nice is you talk some more about what you were talking about earlier and getting PD on a RCFFA rotation. I mean, chest with a Crown of Ryle, Robe of Azure Sky. Can you imagine?
Well, I was hoping... Let me tell you something. The week that BDA was in Class C, that was not accidentally set up that way. I purposely suspended TMO and IB and then went and talked to Chest so that he knew exactly what the landscape was like. I purposely gave him an option to choose to leave Class R or eat a suspension in Class R because I wanted to see what he would do. And he chose to go to Class C. And I knew he would because he's not going to let his guild be punished for something he disagrees with, regardless if it's the right thing to do or the not right thing to do. If he doesn't agree with it, he's not going to want to do it. And I knew this would cause problems within Class R and hopefully within the rotation if they tried to save their spot. And I knew that they would be like, this isn't our fault, Sirken forced us. And I knew other people would be like, no, Sirken gave you a choice. You chose Class C.
That was such a headache.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, I love you nerds, but I did that on purpose. And I'll tell you right now, I was hoping very, very much that either a robe or a crown or something awesome would drop for BDA off Faradar. Because I know that your TMOs and at the time, your IBs and maybe even your forceful entries, if you go back far enough, they take that shit seriously. And for someone that they do not like to have that loot, it would drive them crazy. And I was hoping that would be some motivation for them not to want to get guild suspended anymore. But apparently they don't give a shit. They are so goddamn petty and out for their pound of flesh and demand blood over every small instance. I had one guild petition another guild for having too many ogres on the goddamn VP pad, claiming that they were using ogres to block the path. And I'm sitting there like, it's fucking VP, go around them. I mean, it's not like the entrance to Sol B, it's not the G-Fei Bank. Walk around the goddamn ogre.
Man, that costs a half a second.
I mean, you can do it before the dragon pops. You see an ogre in front of you? Get in front of him and back up to the pad and wait for the dragon to pop. It's like musical chairs. We've all played that game, or at least seen it, or know someone who's playing it. We know the rules to musical chairs.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Sirken, because if we take your past 5 minutes or so and take that sound clip, we can refer anybody who asks Taken, why aren't you in Class C, and complains about it. That is exactly why we're not in Class C.
You don't have to worry about
that. That is why. It's we just don't want to have to deal with that kind of stuff.
If I thought the environment was good, I would have absolutely tried to push your guys' guilds into Class C. If I thought it was just a straight up matter of we would rather compete with smaller guilds than bigger guilds, I would push you guys. And I'd go right to Rogan and I'd be like, they're abusing the system, they're taking advantage of the system, blah 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 blah. And let me tell you something. I can put together some real good arguments when I have time. But the truth of the matter is, it's not just a matter of wanting or not wanting to compete with specific guilds. There's a lot more bullshit in Class C. And I know as a GM, I hate dealing with it. Part of the reason, and I know this pisses a lot of people off. I'm pretty sure Clokey was on stream a few weeks ago talking about this as one of his pet peeves that I do. But the amount of time it takes for when a raid petition goes in to when I actually do the suspension is entirely too long. And the couple reasons for that is A, it takes a long time because I try to make sure I do it right, because obviously if I make a mistake on something that players never see or hear about, I don't care. But if I make a mistake in front of everybody who's watching and then I have to go back and change a post that's in front of everybody, it's a little embarrassing and I hate doing it. But sometimes I have to, and that sucks. That sucks a big bag of dicks when I have to do that, let me tell you. Oh, all right. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Uberbandit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting you in charge for a minute. I gotta go to the kitchen.
All right. Not quite sure what I'm in charge. I may or may not have zoned out for the last forever because, honestly, to me, the whole raiding shenanigans.
Well, why don't you explain to them why they should stop killing dragons and it's an endangered species and fucking stuff. Look, you're not going to be on your own very long. I just have to go into the kitchen and get a beer. I'm going to be right back.
Go take care of that meatloaf you had bacon.
Oh, man. I tried to make meatloaf not too long ago. It didn't do well.
The secret is
earlier
ketchup.
you said you had about 45 minutes until you had to do some meatloaf or something. I don't know.
Did I?
Never mind.
All right. I gotta go to the kitchen, nerds. Uberbandit, do words.
Mm-hmm. Help. Picnic. Man, how long has Taken been around? I vaguely remember the name because I started back when Kunark launched.
You play EverQuest?
Past tense. Well, actually, I've been playing a little more and more lately, but I'm sort of just chilling out until the hybrid XP penalty drops, and I'm not wasting half of my time.
I think Taken changed their name. So they originally Transcendence, and then they had changed. I think that was about 5 years ago now.
It was near the start of Kunark.
Yeah,
It was a couple months into Kunark.
So Taken was a guild when I was still a player, is what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Were you still a player?
By the way. I was a player until oh shit, when I joined staff, like September, October of 2011.
Oh yeah, Taken was doing some stuff. Taken was Taken then. I mean, it was pretty much because I was in it from Transcendence to Taken. Actually, I logged in when Transcendence had been disbanded, and I didn't have a guild tag. I was like, whoa, maybe this is a new start for me. I'll just ignore all those people I've been hanging out with. This is my time. And then I got to tell from someone's like, hey, we got a new guild tag. And I was like, oh.
That'll do it.
And do you know why we were called Taken? Did you ever?
I don't. I do not at all.
Well, unfortunately for me, I don't remember, and it kills me I don't remember this, but we had picked out a different name. In fact, we picked out like 2 names, and I can't remember what they were. But the GM that Cher, thanks for Cher, started the guild with, the GM was like, those names are taken. And I don't remember whether the GM or Cher was like, we'll take Taken then. But he was like, yeah.
Yeah, I think Shari says, okay, what about Taken? Just like he's like frustrated at this point. I think it was Uthgard who he was dealing with, and he goes, yeah, you'll be Taken, and that was it.
That's because our original names we picked were already chosen.
Chosen or something. They were like, I forget what the reasons were. It was kind of odd, but yeah.
I wish I could remember those names. That's been bothering me. I mean, this is a fucking thing from 4 years ago. I'm never gonna remember this, and hardly any of those people. Very few people from original Transcendence are still even in the guild. I'm one of like the ancient relics. A couple keep trickling in. That's what's kind of cool about our guild is we don't remove you if you don't log in for a couple months. We understand real life happens. People do things. We've had people from 2011 just log in. Be like, hey, and we're like, who are you? Well, you're not on the roster. Are you a spy?
I think one of my pet peeves with the community is that most players don't realize that's a thing that happens. Not just in your guild, but all guilds. There are people who just disappear, burn out, quit, stop logging in, maybe switch to red, but for whatever reason, they're not there anymore. And they didn't leave the guild, they're still tagged, they're just not logging in. And I know so many people in the forums are like, oh, well, TMO's got to gear up every 8th alt for best in slot things. And, like, that kind of shit drives me crazy because I know, as well as you guys should know, it's a revolving door. People burn out, people disappear. There's constantly people apping to guilds, be it Taken, be it BDA, be it TMO, be it Rampage. People are apping to these guilds, and they're an 8th alt. They aren't even a 2nd alt. It's people's mains, and they don't have shit. I know officers in TMO and Rampage who have alts. I know one officer who has absolutely no VP gear on their 2nd character. They don't even have, like, no drop gear. They have best in slot, like, East Commons gear. Like,
that's pathetic.
Shit you can buy. Well, I mean, it's not. It's kind of pathetic if you're trying to gear up multiple characters, but if you're just focusing on your main, and you'd rather other people's mains get stuff before your alt gets stuff, like that's not pathetic then. No, and I think it's shitty that people in the I know you are, but people in the forums actually believe that shit, and they actually believe that, like, oh well, they are just being selfish because Nyx has 7 characters and only 5 of them are fully best in slot, so we gotta make sure 6 and 7 have it too. And that's like just such garbage. And you guys have to know this because you play. You know the landscape, you see the names. Like, it's not just like in Taken, like it's not the same names from 3 years ago. Some of them, sure, some of them have been there the whole time. And that's true in every guild. But if you only had the people from 3 years ago, all the current guilds would be dead. Because of the revolving door.
Yeah, I mean, even I myself, as Fear mentioned in the beginning, I took like about a year and a half off. My tune just stayed in the guild, and I literally logged in one day. I bought a brand new desk that spurted on, and I was like, I have to, I have a computer, but I don't have a desk. As soon as I got a desk and I put my computer on it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to load up P99 again. I just logged in, and Taken was actually raiding that night. It was a Fear played raid. Yeah. I just like logged in and just like jumped right back into it. I logged in like a year and a half. I was actually used as a guild tracker tune. I was just like a guild tracking whore, I think.
I like it. But I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's good that you guys don't boot people, and if they do come back, like, they still have their home. But I think it's dumb for people to just blindly assume that big guilds, and I'll throw you guys a relatively large guild, I think it's silly for them to just assume that you've had all the same people for 4 years and you're just continuously adding new people to the roster and your old people are just making alts and none of them have ever quit. They're just on different characters now. Like, I think that mindset is so beyond fucked that I literally have to sit here and just be awestruck by it because I can't believe that people actually believe this shit.
Well, I mean, I could definitely, tell you. I mean, we get new people all the time. We get people who, don't have raid experience. This is their first time doing this kind of stuff. And we're constantly getting, new people applying and joining the guild. And this is actually why we're always raiding, hate and fear and all that stuff. Is we're gearing up new people, and it's not just our members working on alt number 7 or 8, like you said. That does happen. I mean, we have people who play a lot.
Oh, for sure, for sure. There's always a couple.
And to keep things fresh, they like, okay, well, I like to play this now. And actually, Taken's really done. We've gone through to great pains to try to make the game more enjoyable for people. We actually have what we call a certified alt, or it's kind of like a secondary main, if you will, that people can kind of get preferential, they get to bid on stuff. We use DKP, so they can bid on stuff for their main player character or their secondary main or their certified alt to try and, again, because we've been locked in Kunark for so long, it gives them a chance to kind of do something fresh, while and still having a new character that they can really identify with and have fun with.
Drink and Drano wants to know if Taken is recruiting, and if they are recruiting, what are like the minimum requirements that you can fire off?
Oh yeah, we're always recruiting right now. It's just really level 46, rating level, to join us and to become a member. At the end of your recruitment period, we have some requirements in terms of gear for resist, like poison resist, magic resist, a couple of basic raid items, and that's all laid out on our recruiting page on takenguild.com. And once you have that, and you've put in sufficient time, and we've kind of vetted you and made sure that you're not a problem and stuff like that. We move you into full member status after about between 3 and 4 weeks.
Nice. I like that. And I'll also say again, in case people Drink and Drano specifically was not here, I think Taken has a good. I think Taken overall is a good guild. Once upon a time, when I was looking at the landscape, I remember telling the other GM that if I was playing Taken's the guild I would join, because they show a lot of promise, they have a lot of potential, they're up and coming. As someone who always played on PvP servers, I'm big on fighting for things, be it, and I mean, shit, maybe you guys would have booted me, because you know what? If I saw someone do some stupid shit, I would have dropped a big old fat train on them. And being that I was a GM for 3 years before I played on P99, I know where the Frapsters stand to get the best shots, and I know how to train people to avoid getting caught. I know what GMs look for. And I think I would have been a very valuable member to your guild. But, unfortunately, GMs aren't allowed to play. Oh, that was sad. That was a sad day.
Oh.
Because when I was just a red guide, like, I had no problem still playing on blue. I wasn't gilded. I changed my name so no one would know it was me. And
what would you have apped as? What necromancer?
Yeah, it would have been a necro, and I would have written a long speech about how I would always have dots for clerics on raids, and how I'm cute and lovable, and I'm tiny and don't take up a lot of space. And you guys would have taken me in a jiffy, because you know what? I had over 90% raid attendance, and there was only one necro in my guild at the time with better raid attendance than me. And I'm pretty sure someone was 2-boxing him. So I don't count it. I don't feel that he legit earned that raid attendance. Fuck him. I was in a very good place in my life when I played P99, and the only responsibility I had at the time was getting my ass out of bed into class. And as long as I went to school and passed my classes, Nothing else mattered. And so I was lucky. I had a lot of time for EQ. And I used a lot of that time raiding and trying to get things. I know I straight up skipped classes because of raids, though. Like, if we wiped and it's like, this is going to take longer. And you look at the clock and you're like, I'm just not going to school today. I'm just not going.
We've had, when the bat phone would go out a while ago, we'd have people like driving home and hopping on TeamSpeak and just to make sure that they could get into the raid in time and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting to see what extent people go through, leaving work to do raids and stuff.
All right, hypothetical. Let's say it's prime time for you guys, whatever your best, most active time is. Let's say tracking on pops. And we'll even say you guys have like a mage there tracking it. So you see it. How long from moment of pop till moment of taking, killing, tracking on? How long do you think it would take to bat phone the members, get them in, call the hero them down, engage and kill tracking on?
Oh man, our members love tracking on too.
Yeah.
It's a big one. Tracking on's one of the important ones. That's why I named him. I know that's how it starts. It starts with the important ones and trickles out from there.
Well, a big thing of that is like sometimes the tracking on encounters, they only happen so often when you're ready for it, and sometimes we have to err on the caution of some member we might want to, even though we could go right now, 15, 20 people, get it started, do the kiting, do the, train for Class C, FFA type encounter, we could do that, but then if there's no one contesting us, well, sometimes we want some people to see a dragon. So really, it depends what kind of situation.
I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, it's situational again because we don't necessarily go for everything that pops. So again, we're trying. We try to
prioritize.
We prioritize and try to be realistic. I mean, even if we know we're going to lose at track at times, let's say we had, when we were first trying to figure out the encounter, we would still make a try. I mean, I remember our first FFA attempt that we did on him. I think we got engaged, but we got wiped out.
Right.
It was close. I think we got to like 60%. It was really exciting too because we went in way before we really wanted to, but we knew if we not got in, we wouldn't have. We did all that waiting and tracking for nothing. We really just wanted to give it a try. That was really fun.
It was fun. So, but that's when we were all kind of hanging out, ready to go. We were like right there, just waiting for the word to go.
Right.
But if we're not pre-staged or we're not anticipating it and stuff like that, we would just probably pass on it.
Right, but I mean, very rarely in a competitive field. Like if you guys chose to be, let's just say you guys as a guild decided we're gonna make the jump to Class C and we're gonna see how it plays out. And so you go to Class C, you start prioritizing your things. You obviously know that TMO and Rampage are gonna start in VP because why wouldn't they?
Right.
And so then you guys would prioritize probably tracking on and then VS. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just throwing the hypothetical out there.
Yeah, it would definitely be a slightly more aggressive tracking on kill.
Like you guys
we would know. Yeah, we would know. How the competition and their plans, and they would probably actually, plan to go to tracking on quicker than normal. Should they know that? We're actively trying to gather VP keys.
Time out. Class C nerds, the reason I'm saying tracking on over VS is because they still need VP keys, and if they were in Class C, that would become more of a priority than epics and awesome legs. And that's why I put tracking on over VS. I understand that for Class C nerds, you don't need teeth as badly.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely the point. I mean, if we found ourselves in C, we would definitely be putting track on the top of our list. But I think also, other guilds may be putting it on the top of their list to prevent us from getting that critical mass of keys. So kind of go. That's the mindset again.
I
right?
would. I'd do everything
Exactly.
I could to prevent you guys from getting keys. Not just you, everyone. I'd do everything I could to prevent everyone from getting keys.
and that's what happened for the longest time, right?
There's something I want to address from Babelfish, who said in the chat, why not just play on test server and get all the expansions for free? And I'm just going to tell you, Mr. Babelfish, it's because a lot of the people that play on P99 don't want and don't like all of the expansions. If they did, they absolutely would play on live or on test server, because that would be offering what they're looking for. And I will also say, for anyone who's absolutely interested in EQ Live at all, I'm going to put their forum link in chat right there, and on EverQuest.com. And then there's that link right there for EverQuest.com. If you have any interest at all in live server stuff or expansions after Velius, be it Lucklin, Plains of Power, LDON, the Legacy Keisha, any of it, they are opening a progression server very soon, from what I'm hearing and reading over there. And I strongly encourage you guys to click those links and check it out, because I know I've read on our forums there's lots of people who disagree with us that when we say Lucklin is the worst thing that's ever happened to EverQuest. And they like specific things about it, and they like things that have come after it. And maybe you wish you could play those expansions, but you're like, oh man, EQ Live is like fucking 20 expansions deep, and P99 won't ever go past Velius. What do I do? And that's what you do. You click those links I put in chat, and you check out their upcoming progression server, because you can play it as long as you want. If you only want to play through Plains of Power, only play through Plains of Power. If you only want to play through Lucklin, you can only play through Lucklin. If you want to play the whole thing, play the whole thing.
It's like getting on a train and jumping off right before it crashes.
Or just getting off at your stop.
Yeah.
If you get on a train, you don't have to ride it to the end of the route. You can get off
where
anywhere.
It's going, and it's nowhere fun.
I'm just saying, you can get off anywhere. You don't have to ride it to the end.
Yeah, I played the original progression servers because I really missed the classic EQ. I'm on P99, and there was so many things wrong with it. It was completely broken. There were quests and instanced encounters, like there was a Kinos an instanced encounter that was in there, all kinds of stuff. So, and that's apparently because they said they don't have the original code anymore, so they couldn't go back to true classic even if they wanted to.
No, they'd essentially have to put in the work that Nobog and our devs put in.
Exactly.
And it's not easy. It's not easy. And those guys, like, that's their job. So they have to actually do shit that's gonna, like, bring in the money and work on multiple projects. And we just do this in our spare time. It's taken us, 4.5 years to get Valius to this point? And I mean, if we were a live server, like if we were an actual company with a game and it took 4.5 years to get an expansion out, people would lose their minds. Yeah, people would go crazy. But because we don't make any money, because we do this as a hobby in our spare time, we feel, and I'm sure you guys have been pissed off reading this on the forums, but we feel very comfortable telling players to go eat a bag of dicks when they start barking their demands at us, because we don't care. And if we were a company and we did charge money and it was our game, we couldn't do that. Like, you can't treat paying customers that way. And in that respect, like, I have a lot of respect for Daybreak. I know I break their balls a little bit, and it's just because when I see something that I don't like, I say something about it. And that's gotten me in trouble in life, but I feel it's important. And I hope they know that I do respect them very much for what they do, because we wouldn't, at the end of the day, like, we all love the same game. We're all addicted to this same kind of crack here. And just some of us like it more classic, and some of us like it more modern, and some of us for some of us this is our career, and for some of us this is our hobby. And I think a lot of people don't realize that even though EverQuest IP is now owned by Daybreak, that Smedley is still part of Daybreak. I believe he's the president of Daybreak at the moment. And Someone should Google that and make sure I'm not wrong, but I do think that's true. And so I mean, these aren't a bunch of like faceless suits. These are people like Smedley. These are people that worked on. I know a bunch of the current EQ1 devs. I'm pretty sure the head person, the oh shit, I don't want to say a name just in case I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure the head person was formerly an EQ2 dev, and so like all of these people have worked with Sony previously, and none of them are just like weird shadowy suits brought in the middle of the night to do things. And I think a lot of people are under that impression that Smedley's out of the picture and that all of these people are new people who had never anything to do with EverQuest. And that's not true. Like, they love this game as much as we do. And so, again, like I said, if anyone has any interest in seeing Lucklin or Plains of Power or any of the expansions that we will never, ever, ever offer you on P99, you should check out those links. I know I put one in chat. I'll do it again. There's the forum link, and then the other one was www.everquest.com. You can get all the information you need for their upcoming progression server right there. Now, me personally, I won't be playing on a progression server. And this is something we can actually talk about because I'm going to spin it. But the reason I wouldn't play on their upcoming progression servers because for me, when I think of EverQuest, it's something very specific. You can't just give me a disc, call it EverQuest, and tell me to play it and tell me it's the game I'm looking for. Because with all the revamped zones, with all of the upgraded loots in classic zones, with all of some of the NPCs that later expansions added into the old zones, Lucklin models, AAs, basically everything that ever got added to the game afterwards. Target rings, maps, all that shit. When I see that, it's not EverQuest to me. And I would say, yes, it's going to take some time and it's going to take some work, but you have a real team of devs. And if a bunch of asshole volunteers can do something, you guys can do it too. And I'm not saying recreate everything, but just try to make it as classic as possible. Try to pull out AAs, try to pull out Lucklin models, try to pull out... If you can't undo the zones, fine, I get that. It would suck, but it wouldn't be a complete deal breaker. But all the other things, I mean, if you want a classic server, you need to do those things. And most importantly, you need to not allow boxing. And I can see where that's a double-edged sword because you're like, oh, but they have to pay for accounts and they have to pay for the game. And if they have multiple accounts, they're paying for those accounts. So what's the problem? And as anyone who plays on P99 for any amount of time knows, we don't allow two boxing. And it's a huge inconvenience. I'm sure there's times all three of you, Bandit and Eratani and Fearstalker, I'm sure there's times where you wish you could just two-box for 5 seconds to do a port or do a buff or do a transfer or something stupid that wouldn't give you a huge advantage of the game. It would just be a convenience thing. But we'll ban the shit out of you for doing it, and you know this, and so you don't do it. And as petty and stupid as that sounds, long-term, big picture, that's how you build a community. You need people to need each other. If you never needed another person, you have no reason to talk to strangers. I played Star Wars, the MMO, when it came out, and I got to end level without talking or grouping or doing anything with anybody other than the PvP stuff. And what's the other one? I played ESO for a little bit, and I didn't get anywhere close to max level. But I can tell you right now that me and this one person that were playing it, we could have probably got to max level solo, and we definitely could have got to max level just the two of us. And there's no challenge. There's no forced community building. And I know when I was playing EverQuest Live back in the day, I needed people. Even though I was a solo class, I was a mage. I could solo to 50 if I wanted. And then 60 when Kunar came out. But that wasn't fun. Like, nobody is addicted to EverQuest because the game content is so unbelievably life-changingly awesome. You keep logging into EverQuest because of the people, because of your guildmates, because of your friends, because of your rivalries, because of the drama, because you enjoy the company of the people that you play EverQuest with. And if you're not forced to meet people, if you're not forced to work together, if you're not forced to group and find druids to port, you're not going to develop those relationships. There are people, druids, on live and on P99 that I only know because I sent them tells to buy ports from them. And if I could 2-box, I would have never had to do that because I would have had a druid to port and buff me every time I needed it. And so my question, I guess, to you guys is about boxing, and we're gonna start with Uberbandit here on this one because you've been busy with chat stuff most of this evening so far.
Mm-hmm.
What is your opinion on boxing? Good, bad? Would you play on a server that has it? Would you just boycott because of that specifically? How do you feel about us not allowing it on P99? How do you feel it affects communities?
I mean, considering my dad played a wizard and never had to box, I'm pretty against it. It's not classic, it's not necessary, and it's kind of part of the death of the EQ. Especially with free accounts, I could just Sam Deathwalker my way through the entire game.
I see, and oh, you know what? I'm gonna hold my questions till all of you go. Let's throw Eratani next. Give me your thoughts, feelings, opinions on 2-boxing and all the things surrounding that.
Well, I definitely would think, like, kind of the things Uberbandit just said. It would be kind of really dumb. But if it happened on P99, there would probably be, you allow one. Say something like that. You allow one, like you were saying, to convenience yourself, res, port, transfer, leave your EC tune all day. What's the harm in that, But, at the same time, when that happens, as like from an officer, from a guild leader type perspective, knowing the people on this server and how they go for things, that would be a nightmare dealing with like really intense hardcore 2-boxers, pretty much claiming 2 mains, because if you can 2-box, that's if they're both on at the same time, what's the difference? What makes one a main versus like an alt? To me that's like a Hydra character in your guild. And then so how do you deal with like giving out epics and other crap? It just would
if
double.
They're putting in the same exact amount of time. It
would double the queuing. And I think that would just be so disgustingly annoying that it would just really not want to make me log in if I was like in a leadership position in a guild, and it gives me nightmares.
If I was still a player right now, I'll tell you right now, I would quit. I don't know if this happens in Class R, and you guys can tell me or you can lie to me, and I don't care. But one of the things that they do in Class C now is they bind sight on a mob, and then they'll have that person get on Skype and have a bunch of guildies get in the call, and they'll screen share. And so even though it's only one person with bind sight on a mob, there will be a shit ton of people in a Skype group watching this person scream. So even though that person could be sleeping or AFK or whatever, as long as you're in that call on Skype, you have eyes on the spawn spot.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Secrets revealed.
Secrets.
I wrote that down.
But let me tell you something. That's the stupidest fucking shit I've ever heard of in my fucking life. If anybody ever asked me to do that, I would call them on Skype just so they could hear me laugh in their fucking face. Because that is retarded. I know people who play this game who only have one monitor. And they do this with one monitor. And they literally cannot use their computer for anything else while they're doing like 7 hours of face tracking, because their one monitor is being devoted to letting the guild watch screen share to track that mob.
Sirken, what if the Skype VP sharing was worth like, 10 DKP an hour though?
It's regular tracking DKP. I've asked. I've inquired this. It is regular tracking DKP. It's just a mandatory thing that TMO and Rampage do now. And I think it's the most retarded shit in the world. I can't believe any of them do that.
That's some of the learning curve for the guilds that want to think they jump in there.
Yeah, that's one of the newer things that has not been going on for more than a few months. But, I can't believe people are doing that shit. And I know people might be pissy that I'm talking about it, but I don't give any shits. I hope that enough people will do it to where it won't even be an advantage, and then people will just stop doing it. Or, I don't know. I'd rather you all quit playing than keep doing that, because that shit makes my heart fucking cry. I can't believe people would waste their lives in that fashion.
Well, you know, easy way to solve a lot of this though would be to lower the variance of mobs from 16 hours to like something like 2 or.
You are out of your fucking mind.
What about the that suggestion? You know, I'd floated a while ago about, you know, just getting rid of the normal spawns and just making everything basically like an earthquake type thing.
I think that's the very best solution. I think if we can replace regular spawns with hard-coded, automated earthquakes, I think that would be absolutely the best thing.
Because, I mean, think about it. You have no more poop socking, no more tracking.
It'd be completely random. I mean, you could have tracking on pop 10 minutes after the last one, or 10 days after the last one. I don't even give a shit. Maybe 10 days is too long.
Fully automated ones.
But what I'm saying is that, yeah, it'd be completely random. There'd be no window that you guys could camp.
Right.
And part of the reason we even agreed to lessen the windows is because guild leaders lined up and promised us they'd stop poop socking. And so now when players are like, well, we'll stop poop socking if you do this, we don't even listen, because in our opinion, players have already spent that token. The we'll stop poop socking thing, that's off the table, because we already played that card and it didn't work. And so anything players say attached with that clause is just ignored at this point. I'm serious. Like, we giggle about it and just
I know we as our guild really tried hard, especially when the rules first came out, not to have a soul in a zone. When there was a mob in target, 2 people, that was it, the trackers.
I know, but then one guild does something, and another guild does something.
Exactly.
And
but I mean, even nowadays, we really try not to even bother, you know, calling a poop sock or whatever till these mobs get a lot later, because it does burn people out. You know, maybe early on we were definitely showing up with 50 in KC, you know, 10 hours left or whatever. But that's because there would also be nothing else to do, and people were on. They wouldn't want to miss a pop, you know, and they're, as Fear was explained earlier, you know, getting drunk and just hanging out.
Mm-hmm. I remember on live, we didn't poop sock shit because it was a PvP server and you'd get your face smashed in. But one of the things that would happen, my guild during Luckland, I hated Luckland. Even on live, I hated Luckland. And I hated it so much that I started an alt guild with a real life friend, and we started getting noobs and running them through like classic progression. Starting with like hate and fear and sky, and then moving on to Kunar, on to Velius mobs. And we even had level caps as we were leveling up as a guild. And we told people, if you pass the level cap, we're going to boot you. And you have 2 options when you hit the cap. You can leave the guild, or you can start helping other people with things. And the people that left, we didn't want them, because they would have left us at 50 anyway. And the people that stayed, they were working their asses off to help the guild catch up, to help guild members get items. And it was a real good way for us to weed out the people who were only there for themselves way before we became a raiding guild. And by the time I upped the level cap to 52, the people that we had in that guild were the most loyal fucking people you'd ever ask for. I could ask these people to set themselves on fire for me, and they would. And we, because, you know, it was a bunch of noobs going through content they'd never gone through before, obviously we would wipe a lot. and we were all bound right outside the hole because it was a PvP server, and we were dirty cross teamers, and the rest of the server killed us on sight. So we could only really hang out safely in Otis, but nobody could come to Otis without us smashing their face. And so when we'd wipe on raids, it would just instantly turn into these giant naked PvP Royal Rumbles. And I love that shit. I love that shit so much. And it's little things like that that build communities. And oh, I'm ranting again. I don't remember where I was going with my story, but the point of the matter is community is the most important thing in EverQuest. Nothing you could ever do with content matters. I ran people through classic content during Luckland, and they had more fun than they ever had after that or before that on a game. I know people, shit, there's thousands of people that would rather play P99 than EQ Live strictly because it's classic. I know people that might not play here but won't play P99 because it's not classic. And I know people that constantly bitch and complain, wishing more than anything an MMO would come out that was like EQ Classic. I know I was a sucker for believing this now, but at the time, I was really hoping that Elder Scrolls Online would be another EQ Classic. I loved that there was 3 teams for PvP and not just good versus bad, because when there's 2 teams, if any of you have ever played Warcraft, you know damn well, the first thing you do is you find out which team on that server is stronger, and that's the team you join. If you want to join Horde, you don't join an Alliance strong server. If you want to join Alliance, you don't join a Horde strong server. That's WoW. And that's 2 teams. One team gets stronger and the other team gets weaker. With 3 teams, you have a whole new dynamic. The 2 smaller teams can work together. Guild or Team C can wait for Guild A and B to fight and weaken each other, and then Team C goes in and mops them both up. There's all kinds of different dynamics that can happen. And then I also like that ESO didn't have cartoony-ass graphics. And I was hoping it would be an open world thing that didn't have instant zones. And then I was also expecting some actual Elder Scroll features like a crime system and theft and actual archery and things that I've grown accustomed to in Elder Scrolls games. And unfortunately, it didn't have any of those things. But that's the secret. And guilds, I laugh a little bit when I see Rampage and TMO doing their shit in VP. Last night, people were arguing about the dumbest shit, and I was in a Skype group with the guild leaders trying to mediate some stuff, and I couldn't believe how stupid it was. And at one point, I just went on a rant because I could see it. Like, this is the reason instance zones exist. This is the reason instanced raiding was put into MMOs. And I'm telling these nerds, like, what you guys are doing right now is the reason MMOs went to shit. It's because people get so goddamn bloodthirsty and so pound-of-fleshy that they don't care. And they just go crazy over the stupidest, pettiest, most frivolous shit. And as a staff member who has to deal with those things, it makes me want to quit. It makes me want to just tear my eyes out of my head. And if I didn't feel extreme like loyalty to Rogan and Nilbog, I would just quit because I wouldn't give any shits. But I can't just abandon them. I love those nerds the way you guys love your favorite guildies. Like, in a sense, the staff is my guild, and I've been in that guild for over 3.5 years now. And so, like, those are the people that I feel loyal to. Those are the people that I chit-chat with the most when I'm in game. Those are the people that like, I would feel bad if I actually let them down. Arg, timeout, side note. Arg, you're wrong. Chick-fil-A, probably the best fast food place ever. Their chicken nuggets are amazing. They're in the Atlanta airport. And most importantly, they have motherfucking waffle fries. And waffle fries are A+.
Have you ever had the spicy sandwich? That's my my go-to. I get the spicy sandwich, no pickle, with the Polynesian sauce. I actually just pour it on the sandwich. I'm good to go.
I don't like the sauce, but I'm with you on the no pickles. I don't want pickles. Oh, if you're watching the video, guys, I caught Rogan uninvis in CS Home earlier today. I made this, and I seen him, and I was like, oh my god, Rogan sighting. He doesn't stay visible for very long because he doesn't like to get spotted, but Rogan sighting. And, fun fact, that sword he's holding, that was Sirken's sword on VZTZ. And when I came here, and I first saw Rogan in game, I got so mad. Oh, it was petty, admittedly. But I got so mad because I was like, well, can't use my weapon anymore. And so I just went with a different weapon that a different GM from VZTZ used. And it was the Brawl Stick from Velius, which is, you guys know, the Brawl Stick. The primal Brawl Stick. That's amazing. It looks like a bat with spikes, pretty much. This is the part where you validate me and say, yes, the Brawl Stick looks awesome.
Awesome stuff. Especially when you're holding it.
Oh, man. Alright, so then another thing I'm going to address, because I don't know if you guys know this, but P99 has its own Reddit. And speaking of Reddits, let's just get all this out of the way. www.reddit.com/r/project1999. That is our Reddit. That is where I believe it's a bunch of BDA people, maybe other people, but I know there's some BDA people running that. Praise and kudos and all the things to you nerds for running that. Thank you. If you want to talk about Project 1999, go there and talk about it. People love that there. Do not go to reddit.com/r/EverQuest and advertise P99. They don't like it, and realistically, it just makes us look bad when people ask you not to do things and then you do them anyway. And I would like us to look classy. So don't go to the Reddit EverQuest thing and spam P99 shit. Don't go to the Sony forums and spam P99 shit. Be respectful, have some class, and try to make us look good. I mean, when you are out there posting shit, whatever you post reflects on all of us. The guilds, the players, the staff, absolutely everything having to do with the community. There are people who don't know this community, who don't play here, who only read EverQuest Live stuff. And when you go there and you act like an asshole, it makes all of us look like assholes. It makes Fearstalker and Eratani look like assholes. It makes Uberbandit look like an asshole. It makes me look like an asshole. And let me tell you guys, I don't need help looking like an asshole. I do just fine all on my own. So be respectful. We wouldn't want people to come here to P99 and start shitting up everything with their things. And so I would just ask that you guys show them the same respect. On that note, I'm also going to say what I originally wanted to say, which is I was reading the thread I made on the P99 Reddit, because I always make a thread on the P99 Reddit when I have a stream, and a lot of people were freaking out over the comments I made last week regarding the Gina stuff, the map overlay stuff, the audio trigger stuff, and all those things. And it kind of blows my mind, because once again, I'm just going to say, if we put time, effort, and resources into removing a feature from the game, and then you go and get a third-party program to give you exactly what we took away from you, you should not be surprised when we suspend and or ban you for using and doing those things. I said last week that it's not physically possible for us to go back in time, and I know that's a spoiler because a lot of you guys think we can do anything, but we don't have time machines and we can't go back in time, and so people that have been using it are fine. But if we ninja added it to the DLL last night or with the last patch or any of those things, we will be tracking for it from that point. And you can roll the dice, you can do whatever you want. I'm sure that we'll make some kind of post saying it's a rule before we start banning for people, but maybe we won't. I don't know. I would just say, don't use things that give you features that we've spent time, effort, and resources removing from the game. Because there's a reason we remove them from the game. And people can piss and bitch and moan and pretend it's always been allowed. But I know when I was a player, audio triggers weren't allowed. Because I was specifically told by a GM that if I used them, I'd be banned. And I know that as GM Sirken, I never changed any rules, and I don't recall that rule ever being changed. So
you're saying people can't use audio triggers now?
I'm saying that if we find a way to catch people using shit they shouldn't be using, I'm going to do everything I can to ban them for those things. That's all I'm saying. But I will say I don't like to entrap people. And so if I know that we're going to start banning for that, I will ask and fight for players to get some kind of heads up before we start. I would feel really shitty ninja banning people. I would feel really shitty almost entrapping people. But I mean, if we ever make a post that says you need to stop using the shit, I strongly suggest you listen to what the post says. Because that means we're tracking for it. So, but in the meantime, we can't track it. So, feel free to roll dice. Uberbandit! Bandit of Uberness? Hi, buddy.
Well, it always just on that last note, it always interests me when people seek out P99 because it's classic EverQuest to play on. The big part of the classic EverQuest was that it was difficult. It was hard. Now, granted, it's a lot easier now because everybody kind of knows all the little ins and outs. But for people to go out of their way to find ways to make it easier, like with doing boxing or whatever else it is that they do to cheat, it just kind of or doing the RMT stuff and all that kind of stuff. It just kind of I just never really understood that because it's kind of you're defeating the whole point of having the server. There are servers out there where you can do all that kind of stuff and run all those programs and cheat to your heart's content and they're fine. I just don't know why people who come to P99 to play on a hard server go out of their way to make it easier.
I agree. Hold on one sec. I'm typing what I just said to you. God damn it. I wish I could multitask. I wish I could talk to you guys and type messages to people that aren't here. There's one guy on Red server who's currently banned, and I told him last weekend, or maybe the weekend before, I told him a minute ago that I was going to make time for him on Saturday, and then my Saturday went to shit, and I wasn't able to. And now I actually feel bad. I was originally just going to tell this guy to fuck off, and now I feel like I have been so shitty to him that I actually should listen to him. Uberbandit is busy. So, wow, this is the part where I would normally rattle off questions, or he would rattle off questions. He isn't going to. So if you had a question and you assumed Uberbandit had written it down to rattle off to me right about now, you should re-ask it, because that's apparently not going to be a thing. As far as people talking about using things that only use the log file was okay, yes, that's absolutely okay for now. And like I said, if we make a post saying otherwise, you should absolutely go by what that post says. Log parsers. If the damage parsing stuff we don't care about. We never put time, effort, and resources into removing that. We did put time, effort, and resources into removing maps. And so people who use map overlays, I'm not going to feel bad for when they get banned. Has there been any further discussion about the P99 recycling progression server? Fat Town wants to know. Short answer is no. Balut says you're the best pal on Red 99. Fearstalker, he's probably talking to you. PM Boots wants to know, are you allowed to harass the person who killed you in tells after you loot and scoot? If so, does that violate loot and scoot? If they've already loot and scooted, then that whole process is done and they can't violate it post completion. If they're in the process of loot and scooting, or if they're sitting there medding and talking shit like, I'm on loot and scoot, you can't kill me, you're a big old piece of shit, huddy 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 ha, you can absolutely just rape their face right off their head. Just take a screenshot of them antagonizing you, so that, because odds are they're trying to bait you into killing them so they can petition you for loot and scoot. Because red server nerds, as tough as they act on the forums, are just as blue server nerds. And they get off on petition quest. The only difference is blue server nerds are much better at petition quest. And Eratani's router, apparently your router is in my chat room, Eratani.
I don't know how he did this.
You should put a leash on your router.
Well, he's kind of has me by the balls because if I get too angry, at him, he'll just turn off and then.
All right. We will respect your router tonight, but in the future, plotting and scheming shall occur. What guild did I play in VZ, and why does Eratani hate routers so much? I can tell you why Eratani hates routers so much. He just answered it. It's because they have him by the balls, and he doesn't appreciate that. What guild did I play in Valenzac? I played in Defiant. I played in Faded. I started Macabre with my real-life friend Beholder and his real-life girlfriend Mariska, or Jerica, was her druid main. I think Mariska was the alt she put in Macabre. I believe we merged with Vexar or merged with Torrent. I think it was Torrent, actually. We merged into Torrent, and then that was the end. There was a bunch of small, shittier guilds before Defiant. Northern Crusaders, Judges of Norath. Judges of Norath was a cute guild. From like level 10 to 25, we would have raids in Nectulu's Forest and kill Dark Elves. And that was back in item loot. And that's how I got my +2 intelligence rings. I killed a Dark Elf and took one, and then I killed another Dark Elf and took another one. And I enjoyed the absolute shit out of that. Sirken, Iowa Gnome says you would love Eratani's router thread. I started it, but Zegabus finished it. I like science, spelled very weirdly, says, can we help with dev? Yes, you can. Go to the dev forums. There's a whole list of shit. And if you feel everything on that list has been done, make a new thread and say, hey, dev nerds, give me shit to do. I want to help. Balut702 says, holy original member of Taken. So that probably means more to you guys than it means to me, because I don't know what that means.
What's up, Holy?
He was, that's his name.
A+. So, pals, we're at about that point where I have 8 minutes left. So, we have to make the decision. Are you guys, do you feel good and content, or do you feel like you have more to say?
That was pretty satisfying sausage fest we had there. I don't know about you guys.
It usually starts off pretty slow. The first 30 minutes, it's like, we're teeter-tottering, we're tiptoeing, things aren't all as exciting as they want to be, and then the next hour and a half just fucking disappears. I just got wallet texted, so I can't deal with that right now because I'm streaming like a good streamer. So yeah, do you guys have anything to add before I force you to say goodbye?
No, I mean, I think the everything went pretty good. We had a chance to kind of answer any kind of some of the questions I think have been floating around people's heads. Cleared up any misconceptions about Taken, hopefully, and we're pretty chill guild, and we love to have fun. And
I will say you guys are more than welcome to come back anytime. And I'll also say I'm very, very flattered that you guys finally came on stream, because I tried the nice approach and that didn't work. So then I decided I was just going to fire shots every week until eventually you came on to defend yourselves. I will say, I won't name his name. If you actually give a shit, I'll tell you after stream. But there's one member who sent me a private message that was like literally 5 very well written paragraphs of why I'm a piece of shit and why I shouldn't stream and how I should use all of my free time for petitions. And so I took great offense to that, and I decided I was going to wait till I had a couple hours to really just tear his private message apart sentence by sentence. And so I did, and we went back and forth a couple times, and then he's eventually like, well, this last part at the end. And I was like, you know what? I'll give you that last part at the end. If of all these 6 paragraphs, that's all you still have, I'll give you that one. And I felt bad because I hate arguing with people, but I also hate when people take personal shots at me. And especially when it's in a private message, because they're not doing it for attention. They're not doing it to be a forum troll. They actually feel that way if they're taking the time to private message me all of those words.
So this is someone from Taken, you said, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised to hear that because, I mean, you know, we really do push to have, you know, pretty, you know, low intensity people, and you know, everyone just likes to have a lot, you know, have fun and not really get involved in drama. The only thing I could think of is I don't know if
I'm not going to say his name on stream.
No,
so,
okay.
I mean,
No,
like,
I
I
mean,
don't want anything
think-
shitty to happen to him. I just
Right.
thought it was shitty for him to do that.
Oh, and I agree. I mean, you know, we take stuff like that very seriously. I mean, we don't, you know, we have a policy against posting an RNF, for example, and if people, you know, if members are caught dicking around with, you know, other people in game, you know, we deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I don't know, it's just, I'm not sure what would bring that about. I mean, I guess every, you know,
Well,
one person out
I'm
of the
sure
whole
I
guild
fired
is not too
shots at...
you could always blame me because we actually have that's another side policy. If you get interviewed, it's the last thing is don't, when in doubt, you know, blame Eratani. I'll just shoulder it, you know,
Well,
toss it in my
fine.
pile.
I'm
So
going to
just-
blame you for everything.
So just blame me.
And so, yeah, we've got roughly like 3 minutes left, so we have to do a quick round of goodbyes here. Fearstalker, thank you very, very much for coming on stream tonight. I know you're busy as shit, and I do appreciate your time, and I'll save you some time by saying www.takenguild.com. Go there, and if you're of any interest at all in apping to this fine guild, that's where you do it. If you have questions about what you need to join, that's probably also the place you would ask those questions. I'm sure they have an application that tells you all the things you need to know. Go there, check it out. www.takenguild.com. It's exactly how it sounds. And Eratani, thank you very much for coming on as well. You have always been a voice of reason with me. I know we had an incident where I incorrectly or banned your account, but I appreciate you not raging off in my face about that and dealing with me and being patient with me while I took the time to clear you of all guiltiness. Just for the record, Eratani did nothing wrong. Sirken just made a mistake.
It's okay. He badmouthed you to all the officers, so it's, you know, he spared you all that stuff.
Yeah. I will say that when I death touched one of your members not too long ago in Track's Lair, he was the only person who was like, "Don't be a bitch" to Sirken. So, A+ on that. And
It was a girl too.
Well, I'm sorry to her for death touching her, but I don't like when people make smart-ass comments because I can show them abuse of power if they really want to see it. Uberbandit, are you here to say goodbye? He might not be. He's doing things. Uberbandit loves you. www.twitch.tv/Uberbandit22. That's where you can follow him. And again, thank you, Fearstalker and Eratani, for coming on stream tonight. I appreciate it. And I'm going to put you nerds on hold and play an outro, so that's happening. Thanks, everybody, for listening and watching. I do appreciate you viewers and your chat roomers. I'm sorry if I didn't get your questions, but youtube.com/SirkenP99. It will have all the things that you need. Really, no, but it has all the things, and you can ask questions there, and I'll ask them, I promise. Have a wonderful night. Hit the follow button, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Nope, that's the wrong video.